Well, good evening, everybody, and nice to see plenty of people in already, which is absolutely awesome. Wow, yeah, if you've seen in the title, it's the After Jeranism Chillax, and yeah, basically that's exactly what it is. I'm having a chill out time now. The show went on for a couple of hours, and yeah, I'm getting a bit weary now. So I would like some panelists to come in and help me have this little bit of back and forth about anything, essentially, because I'm all flat Earth talked out tonight, but I'm sure there's plenty of other subjects we can talk about. So Armin's kind of in the middle of watching Owen Benjamin. Wow, okay, never mind. Right, so does anybody want to have a chat in the meantime whilst I'm waiting for some guests to fill in? Does anyone have anything to say or talk about or ask me about the presentation that I just did on Jaren's show? So here we go. There was the refraction, the sinking, and the mirage refraction location. Does anybody have any comments on that, or anybody want to discuss anything that I actually put forth on that? Flat Earth Island, good show on Jeranism. Thank you very much. Who else have we got in? Let's see. So, who was the first one in? We had Ian Matheson. We had Pool Dog Bear, Regan Humphreys, and Mason B. We then had Seek and Find, The Plain Truth. Plain Truth, if you want to join, let me know. Clary, Flirth McManamum, okay, Rude Earther, Brandon Toy, Cleary, and Amanda Young. I don't think I've missed anybody up to now. Ian Matheson, yeah, seen you in. Leah Templar, nice to see you in. Don't know why you're not moderated. I'll add you as a moderator right now. Yeah, so if anybody has anything that they want to ask about this, Brandon Cook, not at all. Tex, hi all, nice to see you in. Double Beg FPV, yo Ranty, notice the mist today, now hard to see the stars. Right, yeah, I have noticed that there's been reports of mist here and there. I didn't realise it was up your way, to be honest. Hadn't realised it had got that far. Right, let me check Skype. Let's see who's around. Right. Just bear with me, guys. It's a little bit slow at the minute, but I'm sure it will pick up soon enough. I wasn't actually going to go live tonight, and I think that's why. It's just that I've still got a little bit of get up and go inside of me. So your presentation on Jeranism is Baldini approved. Okay. Who's Baldini? Don't know who that is or what that would mean. Come on, guys. Ask me some questions. Come on, there must be something that you guys want to talk about. Let's see. Anybody got anything about this Skunk Bay footage? Let's have a look at that. Let's watch some of that, shall we? I edited out most of it. I cut off the front part of it, kind of chopped it down. I think it's really interesting, this lighthouse over here, this bend down more than anything, and then back to its normal location. So it's down, then up, down. So it's all being stretched downwards. But the trees, you know, they're not moving. And these distant mountains, you know, I mean, you should only see 45 meters of this particular one over here. And it's quite evident later on in the video, around about another 10 seconds or so, and you'll actually see the mountain really clearly. And there's no way that's just 45 meters or so. I mean, look at that. Look at that. So I don't think, you know, refraction should be a bad word going forward. I don't think we need to be as not scared of it. I mean, I just hated the word. I mean, I had refraction used against me so often that I basically built up a real hatred of it. Didn't want to address it, didn't want to look into it. But I think the answer's been there all along, guys. You know, I mean, you just need to remove the globe, take that globe away, apply their mathematics, apply their the nature of light through the mediums, and bingo, you get downward, well, you get upward obstruction, or you get obstruction from the bottom up. It's as easy as that. You know, you don't need a globe for that. It doesn't come any easier. Just need to think out a bit of the box. Nice to see you in, Julie Bennett. Punctured Ball, hi, good show. Ranty, thank you very much. You missed Jeren, sorry about that. Sarita. Amanda Young, you always on? Well, you know, I am Monday to Friday, to be honest. I'm on Monday to Friday. I have the weekends off. Try and keep it, you know, I don't want to always do 5 hours. You know, I would like to do less if possible. And who's messaged me here? Right, here we go. Arwin says, okay, I'm present now. Okay, let's find Arwin then. Let's bring Arwin in. Here we go. Let's give him a bell. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, how's it going? So you're watching Owen Benjamin. What's he been up to tonight then? Where's that? Is that on D Live that he streams? Right, okay. So did you catch any of the Jeranism presentation? Go on then, give me your honest thoughts, because I know that you won't hold back. Yeah, cool. Well, oh, sugar bugger, sugar bugger, sugar bugger, bugger, sugar. I've not got you off mute. There you go.
What?
I had you on mute. It's fine. Do you want to say that again? Do you want to say that again when I asked you the question? It was me.
No, sorry.
he actually said, Ranty, that was the best presentation.
It was terrible, man.
That was the best.
Was just horrific.
He said,
was just terrible.
He said that was the best presentation that anyone's ever done on Jeranism show. I can't believe how good it was. It was something along those lines. I'm right, I know, Owen.
It was a little bit more personal, but yeah, it was definitely complimentary. So.
Good. Well, all I've done is I've formulated. You know, I've listened to the Globers and I've listened to their arguments, right? And all I've done is I've applied their logic to a plane and I've put it to them. You know, what would the light do in a homogeneous plane? What would it do through the gradients? What would that effect be?
Yes.
And lo and behold, you know, they give the same answer, that you would get bottom-up obstruction. You know, the light would never essentially reach the observer, which...
What was that specifically derived from?
Well, the simple fact is that it's warmer towards the Earth than it is the higher up you go. The higher up you go, it gets a little cooler, you know, so...
No, but I'm just wondering, like, how was that effectively, like, how was the result? It's going to be modeled, right? But how was that done? Is that done computerized or just?
Well, we had the Rumpus come in, and he put forth his gradient inside a fish tank. So he was able to show how light is manipulated inside a gradient, inside a homogeneous gradient, by the way. Inside.
Right. He basically demonstrated actual refraction index.
Yeah, inside.
Right? That's so typical Rumpus. He's always spinning around, but he does just have the actual original data there that he just shoves in between, and then just flip-flops around whenever he wants.
So I used him. I used Stingray. Stingray modelled it on a program where it disappears from the bottom up. So he had a building in the distance. He applied refraction, upward refraction to that building on a flat plane, and lo and behold, it disappears from the bottom up. I had McToon. I asked him a question when he was debating Plain Truth. It was done on modern day debates, and his answer was essentially, it would act the same as on a globe. You'd get the light would bend down. Well, thanks very much. Now we have all the globers singing from the same tune that light bends down. Well, okay. Well, let's apply that on a homogeneous, plane. And what happens? Oh, well, the light never reaches the observer. Well, okay. Thank you very much. There's your obstruction.
Have you followed my show, by the way? I've been talking about my new insights concerning refraction.
I remember.
Because
I
this
went
kind
to
of
a show.
Totally fills this in. Because something I've been kind of harping on for at least 3 days, I think, is that their entire claim as to how refraction bends light, right? So, but then Rumpus presumes it's going to bend it all in a curve and all that. But just generally think about it. They think that when the Earth looks like a globe, right? Typical of that type of situation, that is the standard refraction. And that means that according to them, it is supposedly a clear atmosphere. So that everything is the mostly as is. It's more like the globe as it's supposed to be. That's what they originally claimed, right? But now, then when you actually test the types of atmosphere, and when you look very far, when you're suddenly able to see very far, it contrasts that stance. Because when it's very clear, that basically means there's very little refraction, which means everything is as is. And you can see very far. And when there's a lot of refraction, when the atmosphere is thick with water or whatever, then you won't see as far, and it will be more bent because there is more refraction index happening effectively. So this just reveals the entire scenario and the original switcheroo that they try to pull using the general public's ignorance.
Yeah, and you're spot on with that. And one thing I did do is a few days ago now, I put something out on Nathan's, and it was a community post, and I was asking for people to bring up some sort of citation before where a glober had actually specified something or other. And what I did is I went to, I think, show 99. I think it was show 99. It was the only one I watched, and I watched like the first 10 minutes of it, and you were on there talking, and you essentially were talking about this refraction bottom-up obstruction. And I was like, no fucking way. It's like my research that I've been doing for the past 2 months or so on this particular subject, and here's Arwin talking about it on show 99, and I was like, no way.
Right. Yeah, it is something I was very interested in. It's something I've personally fooled around with in my own spare time when I was around like 17 to 20 or something on my Amiga 1200 with the Imagine 3D ray tracing program that had a pretty capable database with just this interesting slides of what you could do with material and the refraction index change, and just learned of what it's like, and just by fooling around with that. And that just, it made me realize, that is really what it's based on in reality. And it kind of backed up some knowledge I picked up in physics, but it didn't really rub off too much. But because I basically played around with it, I kind of really got it better. And that just got back to me now in this situation, identifying sights through vast bodies of air, as it were.
Yeah. And
It's cool how things come together eventually.
well, the thing is, I'm not staking, a claim in this. I'm just putting that information out there. That it's quite possible that this is what's happening. It really is. But more than anything, it's taking that global argument and it's turning it about face, applying it to a flat plane, and we don't need to find that one thing that they can never provide. We don't need to provide the proof of looming. We can already see all the other effects in play with refraction. The compression, the stretching, the inferior mirage, the superior mirage. We can see all that. Yeah,
the limit to sight itself.
We can see these things, but
don't forget the backdrop. That is arbitrary as well. Depending on the air clarity, it can go further back or become very close, and suddenly you can see things you could see before. So it's kind of overlooked because it is literally what you see as the backdrop. But things can be completely concealed one moment, and another day they're there. You can still see them.
Yeah, and but through all of that, we can apply their mathematics. Well, maybe not their exact mathematics, but we can take some of that calculation, do a little bit of our own mathematics on it, kind of thing, to apply it to a flat plane, and see if whether or not light does do that sort of behaviour. If it is that extreme, we can get that kind of refraction. Because if we can demonstrate that, he's did it with his water tank, but if we can demonstrate that same thing, that same kind of movement of light, that distortion of light, we can all see it like looking through a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, but there's a big problem
but
there.
Can they demonstrate, hang on, but this is the crux of it, can they demonstrate, prove looming? Can they do that? And the simple answer to that is no, they can't. And we don't need that. We can take everything else they have, all their refraction nonsense, we can take all that and claim it as flat Earth, because we don't need anything else other than what we can see and all the effects that we can see. But they need refraction, they need looming, and they don't have it.
I can even double down on that even further and then say that let's just imagine that their kind of fractal looming, their imagination about the horizon looming above the horizon and all that could somehow optically be possible, and it's not. Let me be clear about that. Let's just imagine that it could. Then they still have a problem because it doesn't correlate. The base data doesn't correlate. When you see very far, that means very little refraction, and then you can see very far. That means technically that is everything as is. So it just foundationally contradicts. So it doesn't matter really what story they're going to spin to it. It's always going to foundationally contradict because they switched around the refraction interpretation.
Yeah, I just want to put a... oh, dearie me, Ranty's brain is missing. Somebody ban that twat. Right, here's the thing, yeah. There's a lot of people in chat and have been complaining now for the past 3 weeks and more that there's an issue with this stream whenever they listen to it on an Android phone. Now, most people have been able to get around that by uninstalling the YouTube app and then reinstalling it on their Android. If that doesn't work, right, the best thing to do is to listen to it on a browser. So if you can get like Chrome or something like that on your Android phone, listen to it through Chrome. Don't use the app. The app can't handle my stream for whatever reason. And I know it's the only stream that has this issue for a lot of people, but I can't do anything about it. I've lowered all the settings down as far as they can go. It just seems to be my stream. For whatever reason, the Android phone doesn't like it. And that's the only workaround I can advise you. So, if you're having these issues, that's the best thing I can suggest. Yeah, and going back to your point, Arwen, it seems like they've reverse engineered from what would be a very clear day, very beautiful optics on a good clear day with very, very little to no refraction, that would be the sort of like the baseline. That would be the baseline to work from, and then the refraction index is worked down
It's
from
minimum
that.
refraction, basically. A clear day basically means minimum refraction, means everything more as is. More straight lines.
Yeah. And and everything else is a gradient worse than that, down to the inferior mirages, to the sinking where it completely goes. And it seems like the inferior mirage, from the way I'm sort of viewing it right now, it's like the clear day, no refraction. Then you have a little bit of Fermat's principle, which will come into play for a little bit of refraction, wiggly stuff going on. Then beneath that, you've got the inferior mirage, which is pretty drastic inferior miraging from the bottom up sort of thing, from the bottom down, sorry. And then the last thing would be the complete loss of the image, the complete invisibility of the image that you would normally see. And that would be just the complete, obviously if there's nothing else in the way like fog or mist or things like that, or particles in the air, but the actual trajectory of the light, just the refraction is so strong on that day that it just bends it straight down, never gets to the observer.
Okay, but is concealment, like horizon concealment, is that really inferior mirage? I know sometimes things get the mirror effect starts to appear, especially on water typically, and then objects can be reflected as there, but the cutoff effect, I don't think that is mirage, because it's always concealed. That's really the typical thing about it. There's always this linear build-up over distance where anything underneath that cutoff point, and it increases over distance at a linear rate, nothing can be mirrored from that. Nothing can be seen from that ever in any kind of miraging effect. So the miraging and all the blurring and all that, it's kind of secondary. And that's why I draw them apart. I say, yeah, there's refraction, that distortion, all kinds of warping and things. And then there's diffraction, which is, to me, seems very specific to the visual interaction with solid things that you're looking past. And then that effect naturally arises. So I keep them apart.
Yeah, I think there's still a long way to go in this kind of research, but what we have to look at is the positives that have come out of the past year or two's research, which is we can demonstrate where people will see a perceived hard horizon, so they will see a physical water's edge, and we can look at other things that might be obstructing that. We can look at where the inferior mirage and where that manifests itself. Was it the edge of the sphere? Well, no, it's not. It's above that, so it's atmospheric in some way. Whether that's evaporation from the water, creating this mirrored water layer, or whether it's just an angle, or maybe it's just the light, the way the light hits the water and causes because the light from the sky is much brighter. Maybe the bluey white colours of the sky are so much brighter than the object you're trying to see. It just drowns it out. And I've sort of been looking at that on Sky Free's videos. So Sky Free's been doing it with a mini boat. And you look at that and you think, I wonder if it's just the pixels are deciding, do you know what? I can see more of the lighter colour and I'll get rid of that red part of the boat. And it just seems like that's why it blends into the inferior mirage and just disappears. But there's a whole bunch of reasons why these things disappear, and the Globers, they don't account for anything. The Rumpus was on last night. He didn't account for any swell. As soon as I put swell to him, after I gave him no swell with his claim, it kind of screwed him, and he had this hissy fit for about 10 minutes.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, Rumpus is all out of control. It's hilarious. That show you had with him so long. It was a circus show, but it was amazing. So, and you really led him very easily to the slaughter. It was pretty amazing. Anyway, but I can kind of tie in the refraction index thing again, how it does bend situation, in with the aggravated horizon effect. When it does matter. If light is gonna bend more, and universally it's gonna be in just more, yeah, it's gonna be more. Things are in the distance are gonna be blurred out faster, and whatever motion there is of the light, as where the pathway alteration, it's just gonna be a little bit more. So that would also mean that any light roughly traveling from the eye over any flat surface might have, you could say, the tendency to rather dip down and cause the diffraction effect and then the bouncing off the mirror effect quicker. That could explain why during heavy refraction situations or thick air, the horizon just may appear closer by and may even conceal more things.
Are you happy if I bring Pete Shea in? You gonna be all right with him?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, he's not been too bad last few days, so I'll bring him in. And if you know, I mean, what sort of things do you like talking about other than flat Earth, Arwin?
Me?
Yeah. Is there any subjects that that you normally wouldn't speak about?
What do you mean?
Well, 9/11, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I do mention that kind of thing, you know. I have a general, well-known stance, but that doesn't mean that I will harp on about it constantly. I really try to stay fresh as much as possible, or I will kind of harp on if I think it's really important to make the extra noise. If that is in a moment. But I don't know, I approach things very spiritually. I'm very focused at the moment at trying to learn how to differentiate when looking at religion and listening at religion and story and history, to differentiate between exoterics and esoterics. And it's a pretty heavy process. It's like a whole new way of filtering out information that's kind of far away from how people are normally used to approach things, information, because people personalize their approach, right? Anyway, yeah, it's esoterics. So I'm getting very spiritual. I don't know, maybe I sound really vague now to a lot of people.
So, Arwen, you agree that 9/11 was a symbolic media and victim hoax, and it's up to the individual to come to these terms and, well, move beyond. That's in essence what you're
Well, it would almost be
saying.
inevitable now, wouldn't it? Because if I understand it rightly, then 9/11 is the birth date of Jesus Christ. So,
Excellent.
yeah, they would then, of course, make it as crazy as possible. It's
Yeah, but who is
literally a
they?
cover job. It's like putting a giant pile of mud on top of it
Yeah,
all.
but who is they, and who's given us this movie or picture to consider? This
The
painting.
spirit of
to
the
consider?
Antichrist. The dark ones. The
So where-
Ahriman.
Okay, so if there's an antichrist, necessarily there has to be a Christ, so there's a power for good
Spirit.
involved, right?
Spirit.
So where's that
I
guidance?
did an esoterics. I'm not going to point at any individuals. I don't think. I think it's too people have started to interpret everything too much personified, and it's also thanks to basically the church approach doctrine. It is like normalize it for the general public, but thereby everything becomes exoteric, and so the point, the energy, and the frequency, it's all missed. It
Right,
becomes
but-
exoteric, becomes ritualistic. So yeah, I'm trying to dig back into the roots for the whole.
What's the opposite of esoteric?
You have esoteric and you have exoteric. Exoteric is very ritualistic, very symbols.
Right.
And in those symbols can be esoteric meanings, but you have to be there in order to see it. Yeah, that's esoteric is all about awakening. It's about how sharp
No.
is your sight, how many patterns can you see correlate.
If a symbol has any value, right, it has a value. Hang on, let me just say, if a symbol has any value, it has a value because it applies to the individual, and the greater the symbol, the more it applies to each and every individual. Would you agree with that sentiment overall?
Well, I see it more as symbols are like individuals. They all have their own frequency, and once you start to feel that, then you can actually compare It's just another
are we
language
all
to me,
individuals?
basically.
What separates individual? What separates Arwen from? You've been in this, or we've been in. I don't think we've ever had a civilized chat, Arwen. I think it would be very interesting as well, putting aside all preconceived ideas and notions. But you've been in this arena for a long time, like myself, like many
Plenty of
others.
civilized conversations. Come on.
Are we? Are we all ultimately individuals, or is there some sort of connecting story which binds us all?
Yeah.
Well, you can't say yeah. Well, I guess you could, but I mean, there were opposing sort of options.
Well, I believe in creation. I believe that creation itself and everything that's been manifested on top of it is all part of the plan and the experience, all of it.
Right. So,
The alpha and the omega, and
right.
whatever's supposed to be is supposed to be. And if you can't see that, then you got an obstacle.
But are we created like this, or are we in a state of unnatural being potentially? Because this is not who's having a happy experience here. We touched on this last time on Ranty's Hangout, and I mentioned this tonight on Discord as well, which is like this is a matter of life and death for many people, I should think, because when you find out that the whole foundations of your very existence are under threat, major threat. Well, what do you make of it then? What's the purpose of life? These greater questions, and
hey, I get it.
Yeah,
there's a dichotomy going, okay? There is the animal kingdom and there's the humans or mankind. And it's very different because animals have very strong pre-programming that stems in their genetics, right? It's like well-established fact through testing, empirical testing and observation. So that is there. Humans have an unusual flexible nature. It's so flexible actually that their flexibility can be turned against themselves. And that is supremely unique about humans. And so
does that make us more evolved?
Here in a very conflicted situation. Naturally, we've been designed that to be tested.
Well,
and that gives us also just unique spiritual development. It's just a different way of being. Everybody can all degenerate themselves as much as they like and oversimplify themselves. That's the choice. But they can also take the challenge.
Well, if the benchmark is humankind rather than the human mind and thoughts stemming from the human mind, I was just going to ask, have you ever seen any of those paranormal videos where there seems to be ghosts or some sort of paranormal activity and animals, cats and dogs, seem to pick up on it before any human could? Are we in a devolved state?
I've had telepathic experiences with animals, so with my own cat. Especially.
Yeah. So what is the division? So who are we as human? H-U-man. What does the H represent? It's the eighth letter, right? If there's a greater esoteric story being told and exoteric, what is the greater story? Coming to Flat Earth, we know that there's a fundamentally different story in play than the story we all accepted for the most part all throughout our lives, right? It was the foundation for our very existence.
No,
so what is this new story?
No, it's just all misinterpreted. That's the problem with exoterics and esoterics. It's all the same story. It's just where have you been looking? What part have you been looking at? Do you see the deeper picture? And that's if you don't see it, then you get stuck in exoterics. You get stuck in rituals and actions and historical details and all that, or you see the magnificent depths, and then you suddenly start to see what is a waste of time, and also how you can actually compare it all, the energy of it all, and the frequency all more with your own life, and find your way out spiritually in your personal life out of the
material, maybe. Out of the material, maybe.
Well, metaphorically, yes. Spiritual wise, out of what they say, the sixth frequency up to the 7.
What's the core?
And that is the unique ability of humans. Humans can achieve a 7, as it were.
Well,
and
Well,
more potentially.
outside of the greater picture, only the creator has the greater vision of what humanity is about. Within humanity, where we find ourselves now, we are constantly engaging with these, I call them baller Borg or ball Earth antagonists, ball liars, right? Ballers, So there's a greater story to be broached, I guess. And as flat earthers, we came from a certain, fundamental foundation, and we've left it behind. So then the greater questions occur to us and have to be open to questioning. I mean, I'll just talk briefly about ether and how it's such a dirty topic. Even for yourself, you're very reacted. I know we don't have to go in there. My point being, ultimately, getting to the material versus the material immaterial sort of interaction, which I think is what's going on. Right, we're not material only. The Big Bang idea of the universe stems from a material only basis, right? And look, not to get into it as well, but who's credited in terms of the annals of history as being the originator of the material only, or the heliocentric, where all the focus has been taken from the Earth as a center and put to the sun and then beyond, right? The sun's just an ordinary star now. A star, well, it's Aristarchus of Samos. Right now, if we understand that this man didn't exist and all your history is bunk, you talked about harping on about 9/11. I never actually heard you talking about 9/11 and intelligently discussing 9/11. Not to mind repeating it so much that you just feel you're harping on about it now and making noise. So I'm lacking in that sense. But I think all of these things are up for greater consideration, and they're all interconnected as well. That's why I think Ranty here could build a big platform by allowing these type of discussions. You had Rumpus on last night, and look, I made a fool of him. I made a fool of him back in 2016 with the same argument. I talked about the mirrored water layer. Water is reflective, as we see with the black swan. Arwen, I say this to you especially. Black swan shows you, right? Not only can you see all the way along the water to targets, you can see beyond that as well. Then the horizon seems to bunch up, so you're looking all the way along the water. So if you can see any target of sufficient contrast in the distance, say over 20 miles, then you know you're looking all the way along the water. So you have to decimate the picture in that sense. But yeah, this is what's called all the reflective qualities primarily. Now there's other.
Can we just do a couple of mic checks? Now? Can we just do a couple of mic checks with who we've got? You've got Paige. Paige, you there?
Yeah, hi Ranty. I'm just I can't talk at the minute. I'm just trying to get my laptop to load up. It's not letting me on. So I'll when I've got that up and running, I'll be able to talk better, because I just want to show a couple of things and I won't be able to do it if I'm on my phone.
Okay, excellent, no problem. Right on, Ali B, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Nice to have you. We haven't spoken for a while.
It's been a while, Ranty. I've been listening to your shows, especially last night. I just wanted to talk 1 second with Pete. When you mentioned particulates, I think it was the other night with, the Rumpus, he totally denied the existence. You were spot on with that, the particulates. And especially if they're the size of the light, if they're like nanometers, the same as the frequency, a yellow, a blue, or a red, some refract these colours a lot easier. So they do have particulates like salt that comes off, like you were saying, the heat. When the heat comes off the water, the salt actually rises with it and plus splashes off the waves and stuff. So you get a lot of that. So he was just denying that. He's a clown. He doesn't know his subjects properly. But that was it. You're muted. You're muted, Pete.
Dad, don't tell him.
Oh, what are you like?
You're muted, brother.
That's really weird. I think his mic's gone down.
Yeah, your mic's going down or something. Pete, your mic.
No, but sorry, but I'd like to take this moment to respond to all that nonsense. Like, I have talked about 9/11. I've talked about 9/11 with people on other channels. I've talked about even with P. Mars about it, because, yeah, I had my own experiences with it. It was my own personal awakening on another level. So it's definitely been part of my experience. It's just that I've experienced a lot of first-hand hostile social situations because of that, more than flat Earth. Because I would talk about it in a pretty early stage, like Obama and pre-Obama and pre-Obama era, when it was really fresh and the Dutch people were so heavily indoctrinated by the news and all that. Like you can't imagine how bad it was. It was literal worship and all that shit. It was terrible, and people were kind of staggered. So then I would bring it up because I was just in the research, kind of desperate to find other people to talk about it, and people would totally flip out on me, like get really almost physically violent, and that's like even like young teenagers, people that were 12, like started foaming at the mouth, raging. It was really weird. So I don't necessarily like to bring it up in general. But
my daughter, Arwen, my daughter used to get triggered when I was talking about certain subjects about, talking about governments and that. When she was younger, she got really, just what you were saying, like global warming as well. Instantly.
Oh God, yeah, that's a new thing now. It's so heavy.
My daughter. This is my daughter as well, and she got so triggered about it. And I was like, whoa, right, and I decided not to talk. But see now she's 16. Now she's 16 and stuff like that. She's kind of come back and talked to me about it, and she doesn't believe the Earth is flat. Like, we don't talk about that, but as I say, she's well clued up on stuff like that. So. But she was frothing as well, man. It was crazy to see. I was looking at her thinking, my God, where did you learn all this? She actually could quote verbatim about global warming or 9/11 and stuff like that. I thought, where are you getting this from? How the hell do you know this kind of thing? She gets it at school. They teach this shit at school, man.
And the iPhone, Ali.
But you know why they parrot it so much? Because it's brought with so much energy.
Yeah, and
the people that bring it, like, really, they go on the edge of. It's so serious, and somebody falling out of line is going to be totally, like, very aggressively socially. So that's just the effect,
It brings back.
Normally, they're not exposed to that.
It brings back a deeper question, which is better, too little information or too much information? This is what the internet has provided all of us with, and we wouldn't be here. Honestly, we wouldn't be. And we're grateful for it, right? We're grateful as men, as women, grateful as individuals to make some progress and progression towards the truth, whatever that may entail. But which is better? And Ali, your children we do this to our children. So which is more confusing? I think it's more confusing. Obviously, if you have too much information, you don't know which way to turn.
You can't compare it. It's not about the information; it's about the situation. And in a classroom, for example, you can't just walk away as a student. On the internet, if something goes bad, you can just click away.
It's also about the person, though, Armin. Right? I get what Pete says. Right? Loads of people get traumatized when they actually wake up to a certain truth, when they realise, when they have that moment of crisis. That I've heard all these stories about people actually being traumatized by the flat earth and these certain subjects, when they actually find out, oh my God, I've been lied to. So I kind of agree with Pete there. It's all to do with the person, whether it's too much. It's never too much information for me. But
Ali, we're all under 50, right? We're all under 50. How young is that compared to Methuselah or Adam or any people like this? So in terms of I guess history, we're wise beyond years just to some of the stuff that we are privy to, considering more than anything else.
Absolutely.
I agree with Arwen. It's down to the individual here, and to understand that there's a pathway here. Once you get beyond the literal, then there's a deeper meaning which is transmitted. How is it transmitted? Via, I guess, intricate codes, and you have to be the deepest thinker to establish yourself within this basic arena. No, I don't think so. Like children must become. And then when we look at the basic symbols, well, ultimately the letters and the numbers, right? Then maybe there's something different, encoded within these that applies to all of us. I think it has to be that simple. It has to be. It has to be, the truth has to be accessible by all. But let me just say to Ali, well, of course, Ali, and I haven't seen my son in 5 years, my beautiful Stephen, but we as parents, we incorporate them into the system because we haven't thought about it. So any information that they're exposed to, well, for the most part, we have allowed that to happen. So the confusion then stems from, I guess, our actions or inactions. What are the words of our Father as well, who art in heaven? What I've done and what I failed to do. So I guess is a great. What I'm trying to say is sum it up in a nutshell. When we leave the spinning ball behind, and the utter meaningless nihilism of everything, which we all embraced, right? I did it myself anyway. There's a different story in play. What's the opposite of nothing? Well, maybe everything. And if everything is in play, well, then this is just a tiny little play school or something, isn't it? I think it's all easy if we have the right context.
Yeah, it's like that though. But they've got these teachers. They've got these brainwashed teachers that came out of this era of the global warming or the 9/11 thing, and now they're like promoting it to kids. My daughter came when she was 10-year-old to me, Pete, right, and she said to me, "Dad, do you know who the Illuminati are?" Honestly, I'm not lying, right? And I was like, "Where did you hear that?" And she goes, "We got taught it at school."
Yeah.
By who?
I was by the teacher. I was like, "Wait, I'm in Denmark." Yep, exactly. That was 10-year-old Arwen when she walked up to me. I was
What
like,
kind of class? Was it like
Yeah.
the subject of the day? Was it the theme
I have
that
no
the teacher
idea.
chose? Or?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. But but as I say, she came with that question, and we sat down and I talked about it, and I told her who the group was, and then she got really interested. Now she likes all the theology.
So tell us what the group is. Tell us what the Illuminati is. And actually, I'd love to hear, just genuinely, break down debate. I will give my own answer as well. But Ali, tell us what the Illuminati, for all the audience, what is there listening around, Ranty? Maybe 100 people, something like that. That's a lot of attention. And no pressure on anybody. This is just people talking, right? When you hear the Illuminati and the word itself, what, beyond the explanation you give to your 10-year-old daughter, what do you hold that expression to sort of contain, you know what I mean? And that's the same, especially of Arwen, but others as well.
Okay, just stick to the original question.
Well, to me then, right, the Illuminati was when I first got into this, I heard about them, and apparently they were a group of people, Masons, possibly, or came out of the Masonic, what do you call it, orders or whatever. And these were a group of people that had their hand in everything, like to do with finance, wars. They basically controlled governments and stuff like that, and they were just a secret society. But now it's, I think they were just put up there. I don't even believe. I even believe that Bill Gates, when the time comes to wipe everybody out, they're getting wiped out with us as well. They're not the elites. They are not the elites. They're just useful people. But they're scary.
But what do you think about the idea that the Illuminati may have been born from the Templars after they've been brutally persecuted?
What does it mean to illuminate, Arwen? What does illuminate
Well,
itself?
that depends on if you're going to interpret it esoterically or exoterically.
Right. And everything is beyond the literal,
it's going to be some kind of fire then, probably, or a candle, or that. But it might just simply be a deeper level of insight that may be somewhat uniform in a way. But now, it's just so much muddied up by now.
Well,
that people have been touching on that level without even realizing it's been grafted into the more general baseline society, so they don't recognize even when it arrives.
Well, forget about what people think, right? All there is the individual here. But in terms of illuminating,
it's just about consciousness and about certain level of apparent magic that can come forth from it.
And if you are human, right, your story applies to me. So it's our story. When we think of Illuminati, so it's very applicable when we think about it. What's big in terms of discussion topics these days? Light. What is the nature of light? Rumpus is talking about these
That's a good
light
one.
rays bending around the spherical Earth. I've said it's for last number of years anyway. Light, as we define it, first of all, we have to define the source of the light if we want to make any inroads into
No,
defining
you
what
don't.
light actually is. This is natural light as opposed to say artificial light. But yeah, Illuminati. So what? You become enlightened. But beware the false light, right? We have to understand what the true light is. And if we don't understand that, well, then we're stuck in the exoteric. And maybe because everything is sort of scripted, everything is constructed, it has to be, right? If we're immaterial, this has to be like a sort of a challenge or a construct on a holodeck or something that we say, a game of chess even. Don't get me talking about game of chess, and don't get me talking about the boxing ring and why it's called a boxing ring, and it's ruled by the Queensberry rules, and you have a square perimeter.
You could approach it a little different, though. You could also say things from the controllers. The way they design society and information and everything we're being exposed to, it has to be a certain level of complex in order to subdue the masses and discourage them from seeking further and falling back to a more statist state of being, trusting upon the masses.
Well, in the spiritual sense, God has to be on our side.
Exactly. So
God has to be on our side, Arwen, right? There's either a point to all of this or there's no point to. So if the controllers or the potential controllers have some sort of sway, we also must have the ability to overcome that sway. And I think that ability lies within all of us, right? And this is what Flat Earth provides a new context for. I've made so many discoveries, you wouldn't believe it. And there's nothing special about them. I know it because I know that just like the Navy or the military knew that with their maps from the Second World War, that the Earth was a flattened stationary plane or could be treated as such. Do you think they know less than what we know now? Let's get real here. Let's get real here. Let's not fool ourselves. When we get stuck arguing with the likes of Rumpus or George, who was sitting down in his porno lounge last night, he was naked. Anyone looking last night? Now, George was naked from the waist down. So I hope that makes you feel better listening to this liar. But anyway,
Pete, you put a horrible image in my head, mate. Thanks very much. You fucker. Sorry, Ranty, for swearing.
It's okay, Ranty. You can fucking swear and cunt all you like. It's after 11. But listen, so everything is known. So if everything is known, who's to say there isn't a greater script interwoven within this reality that we have ventured into? Let me ask you, Arwen, honest to God now, and I've been venturing down this path. It's very, very intriguing. We are in where I consider myself to be now is in a divided state. So the Earth outside is divided. So nothing is natural. But when we consider the natural laws of thermodynamics, how do we define nature? Is that not a fundamental starting point? Like with the Earth and the ball earthers, right? We have to establish, first of all, that the Earth is moving. Because if the Earth isn't moving, everything you say in relation to a spinning ball Earth is all bollocks, bud. I don't care what you say. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing in relation to the other question. I mean, where do we start? What is natural? Are you natural? Are you in a natural state? I think everyone listening here will feel that we are not in our natural state.
For fuck's sake, man, stop talking.
I'm done now. Off you go.
Christ. Right. No, we're not natural.
Well, come on, man.
We're you. I'm still talking. Okay, so no, humans, we have what do you say? We have knowing. We have information. We have a consciousness. It makes us very different from other things that are just autopilot. So, man, it just made me lose track, man.
Do you think animals are on autopilot, Arwen? And do you think animals have got a consciousness?
What?
Do animals have consciousness? Are they aware they exist?
To be sure they are,
Yes.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yes, they do, but they just don't concern themselves as much as what humans do, because they see that as nonsense, and technically they're correct.
With what? Flat Earth debates, Arwen? How many shows have you done now?
No, inquiring information is not nonsense. It's just all the ego shit we constantly have to deal with. And
Well,
the delusions people can get lost in, the aberrations because of how far we can dwell. It's
well,
our nature, our specific nature is just quite
well.
surreal compared to that of
Let me
animals.
ask you.
They
Let me
keep
ask you a
things more
question then.
simple.
Let me ask you a question in Arwen, and I mean genuine. I'm trying to be genuine at all times, right? And as I said, we haven't had a sort of civil. I've just talked with Ali loads of times in the past, and we've had our turbulent times. We're all capable of having a civilized conversation. But you've
Many
done
turbulent
many
times.
shows now on a daily basis, right? What do you hope to achieve? You know, at the end of the day, what's the ultimate goal for all of us here, or maybe for the individual anyway? What do you think? Just in general.
I don't know. That depends per individual. I just try to do my best and make that resonate. And the way I do it is by methods. And oh yeah, now I remember. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, you were pointing out at these elitists that supposedly control things, and how they're not really that special people. They're pretty lame actually in certain ways. But with that, you're completely overlooking that what they actually wield, the power they wield, is very hidden, because a lot of the power they wield is based on methods, and methods that are just very proven and hidden, and that's the real secret shit that goes down, and that they keep secret because it is basically a knowledge secret, tricks.
Yeah, but towards what end? You know
And
what
that
Martin
is what
Leakey.
keeps them in power for real.
Yeah,
And
but
the
you know
rest
what
is all
Martin Leakey.
exoteric nonsense.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, Arwen. Then, if there's a real urgency about things, you know what Martin Leakey tends to talk about. I hold that the Earth is in a destroyed state, so it goes back to answering your question, or the question I asked you. Natural is. Hang on, Arwen.
Come
Natural
on,
is
man.
unnatural. Well, hang on, man. Why are you interrupting me? Let me just finish my thought. Natural is unnatural. We live in an unnatural state. So, has someone destroyed the earth? Has someone cut down the trees? I mean, if they have, what's the purpose of all
We
of
don't
this?
live
Is
in
there a
an
battle going on and we don't
unnatural
even know?
We
That's
don't live
all.
in an unnatural state. Nature is defined by the earthliness.
Tell me how. How can nature? Is God divisible or not?
If anything, humans are slightly unnatural because we
We were made
transcend nature at it, because we have the divine spark with us
right.
since
So male is torn from
conception
female.
of humanity.
We were created in the image of the Creator, right? In the image of the Creator, created He them. Is the Creator divisible, Arwen, or is the Creator male and female in one?
That depends on your angle of approach.
They tell you again in Genesis 2 that male and female are divided from one. Eve, the V pointing downwards, the material, right? Adam upwards, the thought. What dimension does
But
a
how are you going to
thought fit
interpret that?
into?
Are you going to interpret that esoterically or exoterically?
Well,
What do
you tell me
mean
your
by that?
interpretation. I say it's literal. I say we're literally
Right, so you're
divided,
going to
male from
interpret it
female.
exoterically. Well, that's great. Go
No,
ahead.
but everything connects. So you can talk about like a separation of earth and heart, but it doesn't work that way. Everything connects because we are immaterial, and therefore we are the greater story, right? It has to be that way. There has to be a greater interconnectedness to everything. And indeed there is, right? And I think you understand this more than most, Arwen.
Yeah, now
Male
you're
and
just
female,
talking your
we're
way
in
out
one.
of it. You started out saying, no, it's all literal, and now you're trying to turn that back into, no, wait, esoteric. Yeah, it isn't. It's
I never
the
said it's
bigger
literal.
picture. Yeah.
The Bible literalists are there to say it's literal, but you are part of the Bible literalist group in a sense,
No,
right?
but that's a whole... Dude, I never claimed that those things aren't literal. It's just another angle. I've said the Bible is a freaking multi-dimensional
Well, how did Jesus
book.
pull
There's
a
so many
4,000 fish from
freaking
his ass
things
on a
in there.
hill
You
talking to
can't...
loads of people?
Once you start claiming that one thing is the only thing and the rest is wrong,
No, I don't
you're
claim
wrong.
that.
It's that simple.
That's what the Bible literalists do. They tell you these times. See, and let me tell you this. Let me say this, right? Hang on, Arwen. You might learn something.
Person has their own path.
Sure. You might learn something, right? So this is what the
I do
heliocentrists give
learn
us, right?
from our
Vast
methods,
swathes of
right?
time, billions of years. Now, when we come to flat Earth, you're sort of lost, confused, and dazed, right? Well, the Bible literalists are there. They're giving you at least 6,000 years. right? PJ gives you something different indeed. He says 422 years. That's when the dodo bird was discovered.
That's really
The dodo bird never
nice.
existed. Imagine it. All part of a construct. If it's possible to negate 14.7 billion years and go back to 5,000 years, why can't it be possible for everything to shift forward? What is time, Arwen? That goes back to
And you
what is
have
the
a
sun,
little bit
right?
more consistent structured sentence here. You're so all over the place. I don't even know how to respond.
I'm not. What is time? It all comes back to the passage of the sun. Now, what is the
That's not
sun?
the
Well, the sun
first
is a
four
source of light.
subjects
Well,
you
what is
touched
light?
upon when you started this out.
No, it's
Can you
just,
please
you
be
know.
a little bit more subject oriented?
Okay, I appreciate that as well, and I know there's other people in the panel here, so I will definitely just go into the background a small bit. I
Okay.
appreciate it though.
No, but yeah, just if you ask so many different things through one another, just
Well, we've had years to
it's one
consider
at
all of
night
this.
here, so
We've had years to consider all of this, and it all comes back to light. What is light? Natural light versus man-made light? It's an interaction, right? It always has to be an interaction between two things. It has to be.
But there's only one real differentiation between light types, and that is celestial light and earthly made light.
Well, take away all artificial light. The only time you get to see is when the sun comes around and excites something. In the Gospel of Thomas, everything is either stillness or excitation. That's the sun. That's what the sun does. A laser beam.
Except observe it.
It's a laser beam. Imagine it was a non-natural thing. Imagine it was a cable cut or something.
You can imagine all kinds of things. That's how the whole globe situation started in the first place.
No, it isn't. The truth is always known. The globe is metaphor.
It is just a visual.
No. The truth is always known. The globe is metaphor.
It's a giant pitfall for the imagination to tumble into.
No, Arwen,
for
listen.
people to spin all kinds of stories with. Because it is just visual.
But hang on, Arwen, you talked about the esoteric. The globe, the spinning ball, the blue marble is the ultimate symbol. Do you understand why? Because it incorporates everything into one thing. If you take it literally, you lose. It's like the Bible. If you take it literally, you lose. Like Jesus, if you take it literally, you lose. How did he get 4,000 fish? Where did he pull them from? His arse on top of a hill while he was preaching to people who couldn't hear him at the back? Yeah. I mean, where do we stand here? Have we a realist aspect of things and an interpretive aspect, or are we solely rooted in the literal? This is when I talk about the Bible literalist. Well, at least we have 5,000 years. Hang on, please. Let me finish. At least we have 5,000 years. But 2,000 years ago, this man did this. So at least you have that certainty. Well, that's not the way it works, right? We're too smart for that.
So where's your esoteric interpretation of the globe religion? I'd like to hear something about it.
Really? Would you? Well, man, the blue marble tells us.
You didn't say anything, you just claimed it there. But
okay, well, the heliocentric model.
Before, and it's actually kind of interesting because there's probably something to it. It's typically Pete Shea.
Of course there is.
Usually rambling nonsense, but for some reason he always gets real points somehow in between.
We never get to talk. I'm banned from everywhere. I have my own hangout, so I talk openly there. But I haven't spoken to you one-on-one. We're open and free exchange of ideas and information is encouraged. But of course there is. The blue marble is the ultimate symbol. We've forgotten about the letters. The letters and the numbers are the ultimate codes, right? We just got to understand that they apply to the makeup of our own being. I don't think anyone, let me just say, Arwen, I don't think anyone would deny that we have a material, we have an immaterial.
How's the globe? What's the symbol? Where's the esoterics directly of the globe and the conceptualization of the outer space giant thing?
Right,
ball and all that, the model, because
I started to say to you,
I look at the model of it all, nothing really fits. There's no individual parts that make sense. So it must then make some kind of symbolical logical sense somehow. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, but why? I was talking about that, and then you interrupted me, and then I had to stop talking because I knew you were talking in the background, but I didn't hear you. But I was going into that. I'm aware that there's other people here as well. But ultimately, it comes back to, again, earth, heart, right? It comes back to you and your component parts. The heliocentrists, right, originated by Aristarchus of Samos, will tell you all you are is the material, whereas we know there's three different succinct parts to our being, right? We have the immaterial center in the brain, then we have the material center in the gut. Einstein was always searching for the grand unifying theory, the gut. We know that Einstein was a tranny now married to a woman.
Come on! Don't bring that shit into there.
But yeah, they're the three parts, right? They're the three different parts.
Please.
So then, hang on,
I love
listen.
that shit, man. Come on,
This
I
is the
love it.
context, though. This is the context. So we have a different context. Our being is not solely material. And now, why does Jesus always point to his heart? The heart is a bridge between the material and the immaterial. You see, Arwen, you can have any thoughts you like about anything. That doesn't make them true. That's when you're rested solely in the immaterial.
How's this tie into the globe? I don't see the connection. It is, yeah, sure.
The globe. Right, the G lobe. Why is God, G-O-D in English, the three letters chosen to represent the most highest sort of thought we can ever imagine? There has to be a certain level of relevance and truth in those letters. That's what I'm talking about, the letters and the numbers being the ultimate code. Have you heard the code dodo? You must have heard about the code dodo, where everything revolves around I and J.
You talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, so everything revolves, that's the secret. Everything revolves around I and J. We're told that J is a late addition to the English alphabet. So I and J are both equivalent to 9. If we think about human, H-human, 8 is above and below, right? So what we want to do is leave the material behind, L. The L represents the lower aspect to our being, the material. When you used to come to the material temptations, then you're foregoing your greater nature if you are immaterial, right? We all know what's right and wrong. It doesn't matter. We all know it. We do it. If we persist in doing it, we still know it. Now, if there's a price to pay for anything, well, the materialist believes that's not, you can do anything you like. And that's it. That's it. There's no code. Then you're obliterated, and it doesn't matter. But
sorry, I don't see anything you just said correlating with the actual concept of the globe Earth in the outer space cosmos. But it's been interesting.
Well, listen, everything is reversed, and ultimately, I'm going too far ahead. Everything is reversed. What we can learn about the flat Earth is the flat plane, right? All the skylights move around in unison, and there's a barrier, or there's some sort of a screen. Now, what's fundamental in understanding is the contour of the screen. So what the heliocentric model, the analemma, tells us especially is that the outer barrier we're under is highest at the equator. That's the highest point. Now, back to the division, we're in a divided state. Back to what is natural. Everything is unnatural. Male is torn from female. Self is torn from self in a sort of twisted way. That's all it is. The picture is there for us to paint together, and flat Earth has been the context. So if you're stuck arguing with Rumpus and asking George to explain the rail lines, these people are all actors. Well, ultimately, maybe for the best of all of us, right? That as the individual, you understand these people are actors, and then you go on to ask the greater questions and the esoteric questions, which are all the simple questions, the childlike questions, right, Arwen? Read the Gospel of Thomas. That's your final instruction.
Yeah,
that's our final instruction.
But actors are specifically exoteric.
I just want to do
for esoterics.
I just want to do a mic check.
All about the act, about the outside.
Arwen, just want to do a mic check with Joey. Joey, are you okay? Can you say hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, no worries. Joey Roach is in the house, everybody. Woohoo!
Yes, sir. Aloha, Ranty Flatter.
Hey, trying to get
everybody. Let's get his subs up to 5K.
Hey, more than that, try and get Joey's up to 1,000. You're so close right now. I'll go and find a link for your channel. I'll spam it in the chat right now. So if anybody's listening, please head on over and support Joey. Let's get him to 1,000 subscribers. We know that he's close. And yeah, you'll hear a bit about him tonight. So with that, I'll go back on mute and I'll let you guys carry on.
Thank you, Ranty, for having me. Yeah, thanks, Joey. Guys. How's it going?
I know it's bad. What's your story then, mate? What's your story? How did you find this flat Earth?
Well, I'm a big fan of Ranty. So I've been a big fan of Ranty for a while, and I'm a flat earther. I promote flat Earth on Facebook mostly, and on YouTube a little bit as well. So I just I love Ranty Flat Earth. I love what he does, and I'm just here to put in my 2 cents and add what I can and contribute what I can to the conversation.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So is the panel here, is it all Flat Earth, or we got some Globe subscribers as well?
No Globers tonight, no.
No Globers at the minute, although I do have Brenda begging to come in, so it's one of them.
Oh God, not Brenda, please.
Well, it was a good conversation while it lasted.
Brenda would be great on philosophical conversations. If we ask Brenda questions like, the nature of our true being and Brenda's transition from being one thing to another, these are all very deeper. And if you remember, if you consider the esoteric, right, Arwen, Brenda's playing a role. So is there a greater message being expressed through the character? Well, of course there is. We are all transgender friends. We're torn male from female. This is why the desire rests within us throughout our lives to be reunited. So I would say invite Brenda in for that type of discussion. But on Flat Earth, no. She is blatantly, obviously a waste of time.
You can't talk to Brenda about the nature of the shape of the Earth, though, because she'll say ludicrous things like the horizon is in front of those 2 platforms on the Black Swan, where anyone with eyeballs can see it's blatantly not. I mean, she's just lying.
Right.
How can you have
the conversation breaks down there, Paige, right?
Blatantly lie like that.
Yeah. Conversation breaks down right there, and this is what I say the equivalence is with the ball. When you take it that the Earth is moving, then you get the ball. But if the Earth isn't moving, everything to do with the spinning ball is utter. I said in the past fantasy. I've been saying this for years, but now I know that it's metaphor. It's not fantasy. The lie is built in the truth. Our reality consists of a different core constituent, right? That's the truth that matters. And as Arwen agrees as well, and as you can see by Arwen's reluctance to talk about it, 9/11 maybe, Arwen, you agree that it was a media and a victim symbolic hoax. Is that your bottom line? I mean, just get it, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where people stand. I really don't.
Here's one for you, Pete, right? Here's one for you. I was watching a Neil deGrasse Tyson lecture. He was lecturing businessmen or something, a paid lecture or whatever, and he actually brought up 9/11. And do you know the film that you see when the camera shoots up and one tower's already on fire?
Yeah.
Right? And you can see it from below. That was him that took that video, or so he proclaims.
Get the heck.
I'm telling you. Listen, I'm telling you, he was living in this is the story, right? And he told this in front of an audience, I swear. I shit you not.
Oh my goodness.
What he said was, and it was funny how he was talking about, let me mention anything. It was funny how he was talking about how the Jews were smarter than, other people. It was weird, but he said what it was he was in his apartment in Manhattan, and he's got an apartment up in Manhattan or something like that, and he was up, and he caught it on the news, and they actually ran down the stairs, and that was apparently outside his building, and he put the video up, Pete, and showed these people and said, this is the video I took. I was like, fuck. I said, that's the video that they show, that one that they look up in the 2 towers. Now, whether he filmed that or not, but that's quite a strange connection there, Pete, don't you think? But
it's all made too obvious. It's all theatre, right? So all of these actors on different fronts are acting parts on other fronts. I always said 9/11 is intimately connected to Flat Earth. It was the first plane or no plane argument. Find out where the original no planer is now, Nico Haupt. Anyone know Nico Haupt? Nico Haupt went on from, so if you're following the clues, Nico Haupt went on from being the original no-planer on 9/11 to, he went on to being a flat earther back in, I came across him first in the Flat Earth Society forums back in 2011, I would say. And then he went on to produce a great tome of work, a literal body of work, which is called 1649ish, which if we understand that it's all sort of theatre and scripted out, we can sort of make more sense of it. But but the body says that no original source material predates the year 1649. Right, so if Earth is not what science tells us, which is 14.7 billion years, everything coming from nothing, and Earth is not quite what religion is telling us, which is 5,000 years ago, where God created it. Well, 1649-ish is where Nico have the original no planar from 9/11, which was intimately connected with flat Earth. Most people came into this conspiracy world via Building 7, which was the Solomon building, which was the sun and moon connection. So
Hello.
I think all of these things are greater connectors. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, just to say, Ali, that story doesn't surprise me in the least because they're making the fakery more obvious. But don't throw the fakery out and just leave it at that. There's a greater story interwoven. Well, number 1 and number 0 are written that way because when you can see the truth, or you can see it to its simplest level, you can understand what that's saying. So, that's what I think.
I'd like to hear some confirmation, or rather some in-depth explanation about your claim about supposedly how there's no evidence for anything existing before the 1600s, right? By what method was used in order to establish that? I would like to hear about that.
Okay, Arwen, it's not that nothing existed, right? It's like the stories of Atlantis and Lemuria and everything. A different reality existed. The tree of life was cut in 1598, according to the story of the dodo. So our Earth this year is 422 years old.
Where did you get that?
What existed beforehand? The story of the dodo. So the dodo bird didn't exist. The dodo bird didn't exist, right? Do is put as it's just a sound.
Where is this story of the dodo?
Well,
what
do you remember the
story of the dodo specifically are you talking about? Is this some description in a library somewhere?
Well, that's the official story. It's like the story of Jesus, right? It's there to be decoded.
No. I would like to hear some. Where did you get this story from? Because I wouldn't want to catch you basically getting off guard.
No,
that
you won't
made
catch
it up.
me.
I'd like to see what is the story of the dodo.
Oh no! Well, you absolutely won't catch me because, as far as I'm aware, it's my own story, right? It's my own kind of adventure into flat Earth and realizing certain things.
You didn't take it anywhere.
I didn't learn anything from Quantum Eraser. Tell me about the Quantum Eraser.
I'm not saying you should do that. Hey, that's of course not.
Tell me about ether, Arwen. You change your mind upon ether. You change your mind about gravity. Of course there's a fucking pushing force. You clown. Of course there's a pushing force. What do you think Earth is? What do you think everything? How do you think everything settles out to the way it does settle out?
Hello, gravity's an effect.
Yeah, it's all about frequency and vibration, right?
You sure, Rod? Is it?
Yeah, but you change your mind. You said everything is down to relative density.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
No, it's not.
That's taking God out of the equation, or a greater power.
The actual thing that is happening, and the effect, right, can be generally attributed to gravity, a little g. And then all the globe nonsense went out of control with that, starting to claim that it is actually the force in the first place.
Mind the globe nonsense. The mind the globe nonsense. You're well into flat Earth consideration. What have you replaced a vacuum of space with? So we agree that if you're in Holland here, right, and I'm in Ireland, we're a short trip away from one another. If I took a trip over to you now, and I was pointing up the sky here in Ireland, we'd agree that we're both pointing in the same direction if you were to do the same in Holland, right? What is above us there, Arwen? What has replaced a vacuum of infinite space? You must have some thoughts. There is a container, you agree.
There's a lot of air there, and then very thin air, and then even more thin air, and then at some point it's going to end in some way. And I don't exactly know how. Could be a barrier.
But you don't know how.
Could be the end to where matter exists. Could be the bottom of the Earth. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't know how. That's fair enough.
What do you say?
How, but you can't speculate.
Because I'm a cosmologist, so there's only so much information I can go with,
What about the Earth's oceans? What about Holland, Amsterdam, the dam, what is it blocking out against? Where do the Earth's oceans come from? What is sand on a flat Earth, Arwen? We know what the ball Earth tells us.
Sand's mostly created from the friction of the ocean. There's a lot of friction going on there.
With rocks. So what is rocks? Why do you have a giant tree as an avatar?
Joey, you've got to speak quick if you want to chat, mate. I've seen you trying to jump in a few times.
Off you go. Sorry, that's Joey.
He's on mute.
I know
Joey. Yeah, you're on mute for some reason. Joey.
Unmute yourself, Joey.
Oh, I don't. Am I on mute?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah,
you
we can
were
hear
on
Ah,
mute.
okay
You're
now.
unmuted
You're
now.
okay
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask a question to the panel because since we're all flat earthers, do you all subscribe to some type of dome? I
No.
do.
I don't.
No. So you think space is infinite?
No. I think a dome is too specific and based on a couple of presuppositions that have yet to be proven.
Okay. Well, so let me ask this then. So is it fair for me to say that there can only be two choices? There either can be infinite space or an encapsulated enclosed system, that there couldn't be a third choice?
No, that's a false dichotomy. There cannot be infinite space. There's no
So do you-
infinity in physical reality. Not that any form can be established within physics. It becomes very apparent when you do enough research. Infinity
You're
is
painting your own
only
picture, or
is
let's
only
be
possible in math.
Done.
I think that there is a dome. I think that science proves it, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. And here's why I believe so strongly, because of the science of lightning. Lightning strikes up, not down. And according to science, they say that as lightning strikes up, it eventually expands into the atmosphere and just blows up. But
Does
since
it?
that can't be,
Does
that's
it
what
strike
science
up?
says. Yeah. So what
Well,
happens is
what is it? What is it when lightning strikes? Because is that the actual electricity that you see, or is it the ignition from the gases that are being hit that trigger first where the gases are the thickest, low down, and then chain react upwards through the actual electricity beam? Because electricity is not really visible,
What
but
are
it
clouds?
lights up matter as it passes through it. And
What are
that's
clouds,
what you really
Joey?
see.
What's your thoughts on clouds? What are clouds, Arwen?
what are clouds?
Water vapor.
Come on,
No,
let's consider this. What is it? It
I
can't
think
be water vapor because we can see the clouds
but it's-
maintaining their shapes in high winds, right? So
Yeah, well,
it can't be
you
just
have
water
this-
vapor anyway.
And it would,
but here's my argument for the dome is because lightning, whatever we're going to argue that it is, it's plasma, but whatever that is, we can argue either way. That light that we see that's going upwards, science says that there's a dark rain cloud, it sends down a downward leader, Earth sends up an upward leader. They make a connection, we hear that and then we see that charge of light where it is going up, right? So whatever it is, we can argue on that. That light that goes up, science says that it expands in the altitude as it gets higher and explodes. That's why we hear that delayed roar above our head that we call thunder. But here's my argument for the dome. Since that's what science says, that's what high definition, super slow-mo videos prove, we can say that, look, what science is saying about that explosion above our head doesn't make sense because you can't get lightning to explode into thin air in a laboratory. You can't get that to happen. The only way to get it to explode is by coming into contact with something solid. For example, when you rub your feet on the floor and you touch the doorknob, the only reason why is because of contact with metal doorknob.
Yeah, but we
So
know what science, everything that
Right.
science says is nonsense, Joey. This is my point to Arwen. This is why I asked you what you thought clouds were in the new flat earth sort of mindset. There's something different than what science tells us. And I think this gets to the heart of
well, look,
matters. If we can't
BJ,
understand the
water is
basic
a
things over our head, then we have difficulty in making any venture towards truth. So that's a genuine question.
Yeah, water is a
Can I,
miraculous
can I
substance.
say something?
Oh, okay, sure.
Sorry, Owen. It just thought crossed my mind about that hole that they dug down the 8 miles or whatever it was. When they got as far as they could go, it was like a liquid diamond kind of thing that they drilled for like 20 years and it just kept filling in where they were drilling. So it's almost
Oh,
as
that's
if
the
there's
drill
something
bit.
that goes. Sorry.
That's the drill bits. The drill bits are diamond and tungsten. That's what they got back, and hydrogen and mud.
Well, they also got 8 miles
They
down.
just stopped digging further.
Hang on, Orwin. They also got 8 miles down, which is the same depth fundamentally as the Mariana Trench. So it comes back to the basic questions: what is Earth? Where the fuck are we? What's going on?
I'm
Is it
just saying
natural
it seems like
or
A
it's
unnatural?
something that
barrier.
goes all the way
Hey,
around
look,
and
I'm all for a
from
barrier.
underneath
If
and
there's a
over.
limited space, you know.
Right. So what's the obvious answer is water's beyond, Joey, right? I know you talk about a certain type of mineral composing the barrier, but what's beyond? What have you replaced the vacuum of space with?
No, why would you assume right away? Well, I know why. It's physicality assumption bias. Why would you assume that there is anything beyond it? Why would
Right,
you
because we
assume
have to
that
paint a
there is-
picture in this new unventured area, Arwen. How else are we going to sort of...
picture a cube or a rectangular, what is it, a irregular cube or
Forget
whatever.
about that.
Yeah,
Forget about
and
that.
then say that is what exists. Everything in this
No,
cube
no.
exists.
Let's look at what we can.
and
Let's look at what we
outside of
can
it,
observe.
there is no space.
I know Joey's trying to get in, and just one moment, Joey, if you please, Arwen. So let's get things back to basics, right? So we got to start trusting our own selves. When we incorporate all of the sort of components to the picture, why not waters beyond? Why not some sort of barrier withholding waters beyond? It is the natural opposite of empty space, after all. We have all the Earth's saline oceans, but sorry, Joey, off you go. What do you think? What do you think the barrier is withholding Earth from?
I don't know, but let me get back to my point that I was trying to make. Lightning strikes up. That's proven by science, and we know that, right? And so since lightning or electricity or plasma can't explode into the thin air like science says, it must be hitting something. So I can speculate what the dome's made out of, but there must be something solid above our head in order for thunder to make a reverberation. Otherwise, lightning would just continue into the infinity of space. There's my argument. Not only did all of our ancient ancestors say there was a dome, but that's scientifically proven. There's something solid and vast above our head.
Well, they know the truth. But hang on, Joey. Hang on, Arwen. Do you think the military and all the privately funded sort of influences here in life, whatever money is, right? Do you think they don't know the truth to our existence? Come on, what are we fucking stupid here in 2020? Where's our fucking vision? You know, whatever about the likes of Rumpus and George who come back on a continuous basis. Who do you think they're working for? Who do you think they're working for? I think the truth of our reality is...
Joey, you're still muted. Whoa, hang on one sec. Joey, you're still muted, mate. If you're trying to jump in, you've somehow muted yourself.
No, he's not ranty. It's when Joey tries to talk, if someone else is talking, he seems to be cut off, so I'm aware of that. So off you go, Joey. Sorry about that.
No problem. It seems like you're delving into a different topic. All I'm trying to say is that I believe that there's proof for a solid vast dome above our head, and it's the science of lightning, because lightning does strike up. That's what science says, and it's been proven. But here's where they're wrong. They say that it just expands into the altitude of air and just blows up, but that can't be reduplicated. The only way to get lightning or electricity to explode is by making it come into contact with something solid. So lightning striking up must be something solid and vast above our head. So that's my argument for the dome.
Yeah, but Joey, you've been saying that for 4 years. I remember you back in the day, right? And you've been saying the same thing. Where's your advanced thoughts in this? I'm asking you for a simple opinion. What has replaced the vacuum of space? What do you think the nature of the barrier is, and what does it withhold from our Earth realm here? And my next part is: do you think our Earth realm here is natural, in a natural state, or something different?
I don't know if I understand your question. Ask me again, please.
Okay, so you've been saying the same thing for 4 years. I've known you for all these years, and I'm asking you for sort of your advanced thoughts on, and it's not even an advanced thought. We know the vacuum of space is nonsense, right? So what, because there is a container, according to how lightning behaves, what does the container withhold us from? What is beyond? Is it the emptiness of space? Is there something else there? And what are your thoughts on that?
There's no possible way to know that. Nobody could ever possibly know that. That's just a fun theoretical speculation conversation. All we can do is go based on the science of where we do live. Nobody's ever been there. Nobody can go there. So all we could do is potentially speculate. But
that's all it's about at this stage. That's all it's about, Joey, at this stage. Science tells us a certain thing. What are we going to do? Spend the rest of our lives just fighting against what science tells us? Where's the rumpus? No. Invite the rumpus in, Ranty. You've God in your life. Is that the Creator not imbued us with the ability to work shit out?
I don't know what I really don't even know what you're talking about?
It's obvious. It's obvious.
BJ,
What
is this
hang on, okay.
hangout too orderly for you? Why are you being so
hang on,
freaking
Arwen.
chaotic?
Okay, let me simplify it. Listen, right, there's a different story in play as we are flat earthers. We know there's a different. We're after coming out of the cave, right? So what can we discern about the nature of our reality? Right. Well, the Bible tells us about a great flood. What are the Earth's oceans? Is the barrier natural? I agree. There's a container. So what does it contain against? What are the options? You've got empty space. What's the opposite? We know everything else is opposite. Heavy waters. Where's the evidence for that? Well, the Earth's oceans. What about the underwater cities strewn throughout the Earth, as the story goes? Hey, what did it do? Decide to build them underwater? No. There seems to be some sort of inundation. But these sort of thoughts have to be, first of all, entertained and then maybe developed upon. If you're just going to leave it at science says this and science is obviously wrong, where does that leave us? 5 years later, 10 years later for me? Nowhere, I say.
But science is not wrong.
Well,
It's not wrong. There's just pseudoscience out there. There's peer-reviewed science that's absolutely legitimate and correct. We're not saying science is wrong in the flat earth community. We're saying that there's such thing as pseudoscience and there's such a thing as real science, and we use real science.
well, what is real science? Tell me one thing that is real science.
Okay, a tree grows from a seed.
Okay, so what is the seed? What is the seed?
Take topical measurements of the earth from Kansas to Florida to all the different states in the U.S. that were measured, and you can see that topographically they're measurably flat. That's science. So
That's
science is
not science.
legit.
That's not
It's
science. That's
pseudoscience.
just observation. That's just looking at a seed, planting it, seeing the repeating pattern, and saying, "Well, this goes from that." That's not science, unless you say that is science, and I think that is science, right? Science is nothing to say what is. It's science is sort of going about explaining the effect, and taking it there towards a possible cause. It has it the wrong way around, and this is where God comes into things, or the greater power, the higher creator. Everything goes the other way around. We have an integrated whole being disintegrated. So science, So Joey, are you a religious man? Are you,
Yeah.
right? So do you take it back to a Bible, a literal? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in
Okay.
the Bible.
So why do you do that? Why do you do that?
I don't know. Do you believe in ghosts? I mean, it's just you asked if I have a religion. I'm talking about science.
Right, but science. The church has always controlled both sides, right? Science and religion.
But I'm trying to talk about science. I mean, do you think that
Science is corrupted. We all know science is corrupted.
Sure, it's corrupted, but there's provable things within science. We can prove that a baby's born from having sex, right? That's proven, right?
Well, in a bit, you have to go further back. Sorry, I know when I speak, I seem to cut Joey off. I don't mean to do that. You have to go further back. You can prove that, but you haven't said what the sperm and the egg actually is. So this is just an observation.
Yeah, it seems like you have some ambiguous talk. I'm just trying to be specific. I'm trying to say that science, which is observable and repeatable, that all flat earthers go by, traditional, repeatable, observable, peer-reviewed science, and peer-reviewed, observable, repeatable science proves that lightning strikes up. Lightning cannot explode into the thin air. It has to come into contact with something.
There's water in the air, and why do you speak for all flat earthers and they go with observable, repeatable science? If science is corrupted from the outset, and comes back to what natural, how do you define natural, Joey? This is where science sort of falls, and quantum eraser especially falls, because they have a predefined notion of what natural actually means. Can you prove what you say is natural is actually natural?
Are you drinking?
Sorry, just to say, sorry, the ball earthers will say that no, I don't have to prove that the Earth is spinning. It's naturally assumed that the Earth is spinning. So, what is natural? Sorry again.
I don't know. But to finish what I'm trying to say, my point is this: science proves it's observable and repeatable. There's scientific proofs that we can use, and science proves that lightning goes up. So I'm just trying to say that since lightning does go up,
science doesn't prove. Science doesn't prove anything, bro. You have an observation. You observe an effect. You didn't prove the cause of the effect. All you're doing is watching lightning.
Right.
Science is a religion.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say science proves stuff, that's no different than somebody saying, "Oh, God proves things." Okay,
Right.
And this is part of the flat Earth hoax: is that there's this. Oh, there's not all science is pseudoscience. Okay, when they tell you that, and pseudoscience is science because look at what science proved. It proved the Earth is a ball. It proved atoms. It proved all of this nonsense that is bullshit. So science is just a label that people use to give a theory credit. So they will say that Albert Einstein, he basically invented space-time bending. That's a theory, right? He just was sitting down one day and said, I think space-time is a thing, created it, and they say that's science. No, that's not science, bro. That's just brainstorming.
What is science, right to hand? What is science? How would you define real science?
Real science, you got two things. You got measurements, which is math, and then you have science, which is the explanation for an observed effect. So if you're going to say that a rock falls, you could just say gravity. No, you have to explain how the Earth, if it's pulling the rock down, how it does that. Is it a physical connection? Is there some? That's what science does. Science explains. Science is not an observation. Science is not labeling something. Science is you thinking with your brain. So you don't need eyes. You don't need an observed phenomenon, because then blind people couldn't do science. Okay. All you need to do is have a brain and be able to explain an effect with a logical explanation. That's science.
Actually, hang on. What science can blind people do?
It's not just explanation. It's establishing a causal relationship specifically through experimentation and interaction, changing.
What science can blind people do, right hand?
Because you don't need to observe. You don't need to observe water boiling to know that it does it. You just have to think, why does heat make water boil? Now, here's the thing. Here. This is science. Will tell you. Oh, we know heat boils because atoms are bouncing around, but they can't see the atoms. All they see is Arwen, hang on, Arwen. I know you're triggered because science is your religion too, and you push part of it. Well, then don't interrupt.
All right.
Don't interrupt. You can correct me when I'm done. So science is going to tell you that water boils because they're observing heat, which they don't even know what heat is, okay? They're just going to say heat. They don't know that what happened to explain the mechanism which happens to combustible gas when it is ignited. They can't. They'll just say heat makes water boil. That's not science. They're not doing science. They're creating an idea in their head and then just like, oh, this is it.
Well, they misdefined water, but what science can blind people do, right to hand? That's my question.
You don't need eyes to do science. You can create you can create an explanation with your head to explain a mechanism. So if they're going to say the sun shines every day.
It's ridiculous. You don't need to model out anything. You just know the mechanism.
Hang on.
Look, it's about natural phenomena.
Between blind people.
So it is a phenomenon or it isn't a phenomenon.
First of all, what is the definition of science and how?
You don't need to model out the phenomena.
You're saying observing a phenomena is science. Arwen, are you saying that observing a phenomena is science?
That's just that's all the speculation nonsense that people waste their time with on top of it.
You're saying that you're the one that's saying that you need an observed phenomenon. You're the one that's saying you need observed phenomenon to have science.
Right.
Science is a search for truth, right? Is it science a search for truth or not? Are we all about the search for truth?
Yes.
Are you happy with a partial truth, Arwen?
Nonsensical side speculation garbage.
You didn't prove water boils.
Science is a method.
Forget about that. Let's not let it devolve, right?
Science it's all futurism. All this shit, all this science nonsense that we're all being subjected
Arwen, what is the sun? Hang on, please. Let me ask this question. What is the sun?
And it is because of futurism. It happened in the 1920s.
You're only an individual. We're all individuals.
That's when it was introduced through media and through storytelling.
Arwen,
and through
what is the sun?
New
medium. What is the sun?
Video.
Joey, what is the sun?
We're all cutting each other out.
You guys really don't like good points.
Yeah, but
I gotta get going. I want to thank everybody for having me out. Come and join you guys. It's been fun, but I gotta get going. I gotta do some stuff for the family.
Joey, can you show us your left nipple before you go? Is that okay?
No, don't.
He showed us nearly all the rest.
He's winding you up. He's having a laugh, Joey.
He's topless there. Joey's topless. If I was in Hawaii, I'd be topless. Paige, I have a green jumper. That looks blue.
Show us your left nipple, Pete. Show us your left nipple.
You pick which is my left is your right, right?
You need some implants there, Pete. Maybe go to some double D's.
I'm an arm, right?
guys get my conversation. Shout out to the chat. Chat rock. That's my favorite place to be.
Well,
Love
try the
you,
investigation as well, Ranty. Look, my fingers are well oriented.
Nice one, Joey. Nice one, Joey. Nice to have had you in tonight.
Well, it brings back it always comes back to the basic questions: light. What is light? Arwen, what is the sun? What is the sun? Get real now. What is the sun?
It's an apparent phenomenon that you get to see when you look directly in the daylight direction in relation to your position.
It's a reflection, right? It's an observer-dependent reflection,
No, that's
right?
your interpretation. Nope.
Right. So, with the nature of the barrier, there's
It's
something
an apparent
holding
light
us
phenomena.
back from
Okay, well,
whatever's
you don't
beyond.
care really about my...
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but you're not expanding upon. You won't expand
Really?
upon.
Why do I need to expand upon it?
Because this is all about the individual and your love of your fellow man.
I
our
just
greater
have to
search for
set.
truth in
I
this
just have
mire
to
of
set
lies,
my
this horrific mire of
presuppositions, right? I
lies.
just have to set it in a specific way.
I'd love to hear
I'm
your
pretty sure it's
thoughts, you're
just
an
a light
intelligent
phenomena.
man.
It's light phenomena. Just like the
So does-
horizon is an optical phenomena.
Your optical phenomena is water mirroring, Arwen. All the mirroring on the horizon is caused by the water because we're looking over an extended plane, and once we break it down prospectively,
Yeah, no shit.
the water behaves reflectively. That leads us, once we accept the mirrored layer below, we can see that the mirrored sky above, right? A contoured barrier which is withholding Earth from beyond, but it's a broken, collapsed barrier. This is why the outer barrier we're under is highest at the equatorial areas. So what the sun is paramount to all of this. The interaction, light and heat, are interactions between the sun's source energies and water everywhere. This water is beyond, energized barrier. The saline waters are broken down into their particulate fresh water and salt particulate form. Well, actually, earlier on, what are the clouds? Ask Joey what are the clouds. He's no advanced thoughts in this. I met Joey 4 years ago, in case you think I'm being sort of flippant or disrespectful. But no, I know there's a different story going on. Well, the clouds are salt particulate. This is why the chemtrails in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, wherever you are, and in Ireland here, they're salt, lithium and barium salts, because they absorb the water particulate, right, which is broken down from the barrier, which is an unnatural state. And well, then we have the repeating cloud patterns. We have a cymatic, we have a frequency being expressed, which is where, well, from the central source, the big tree that you have in your avatar, Arwen, which is cut down Aristarchus, right at the center, Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil translates as the tree of souls. Souls is you, Sol, right? So everything connects. Don't separate yourself from the external. If you say Jesus is a man who pulled 4,000 fish from his ass, well, that's fair enough. You're after doing just the same, or at least you have the capabilities anyway, under your true potentials.
One point you made, Pete, about the clouds, how much they weigh. It was quite funny. I was driving the other day, and there was like 2 layers of clouds. One was grey and it was really, really low, and one was high. And it got me thinking. It was you that sort of kind of reminded me that it was worth a thought, because these things weigh tens of thousands of tons, right? Even more possibly because of the water they're holding, right? But yet they float there. But an aeroplane needs an engine to stay afloat, and I was like, there must be some reason that they end up floating there, because that goes against all physics.
Right,
and
exactly.
That excuse that they say, oh, it's because it's not bonded together, you can't take the weight as a mass, but I don't buy into that at all. But that's quite an interesting thought, and the explanation to why they don't fall out the sky is bullshit. It's like waffle. It's like the rest of their excuses. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, we know it, Ali. Everything to do with the spinning ball Earth is nonsense, but not quite worthy of throwing out without some sort of analysis. It's all metaphor, right? With the clouds, I posted a picture. I just shared. I hope I shared my screen. You can see my screen.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen, but you're. Hold on. You're sharing your screen, but you're roboting when you're sharing as well. So I think your bandwidth is a bit constrained.
Oh, limited. Okay, I've loaded
Oh no,
tabs
that's better
open.
now. That's better now.
Well, you've seen this one, right? People laugh at me. Mind the God, especially laughing at the Bible literalist. Right, the hand is a Bible literalist as well, which is a bit more strange. But anyway, this cloud. The reason why I posted this because I fucking stand over it. For the last 2 years, I've recognized that there's repeating cloud patterns. And when I saw this picture, this is just a random picture off the internet, and you can be sure it's just someone, some ordinary person, just looking at this curiosity, taking a picture and posting it and going, how funny it is. Right? I knew that this core pattern was in play all the time. I thought that this image was photoshopped in some way until I fucking saw it in its exact form. And it's exactly like that. And I say, the children are not lied to. So we have the teddy bear sort of icon for the children. We were children ourselves. And I think it's all a reminder. So all clues along a greater path. But this is the repeating pattern. Now, you're not going to see it like this. Don't expect anything so easily. If everything was so obvious, it would have been solved years ago. But let me just say, Ranty.
I'm sorry. I am finding it a little bit funny because I have never seen this image in my entire. Well, I've never seen it in reality. Yeah, I've never seen it in reality.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know when you say I've never seen that, and then you see it 3 or 4 times in a row the next time when you have your eyes open? Well, now you won't
I'll be looking up. I'll be looking up to see if I can see this.
Well, with your P900, well, look. Anyway, listen. What you have to remember is that everything is a constant state of sort of motion or transformation. This is what the sun does. This is what everything, the sky, all the skylights have a singular source. Everything sort of travels around in unison. The singular source itself is moving up and down. So this gives us variation. But you will see it in its form when you sort of piece it together. But another image, another repeating cloud image, just in case you think this is just so I call it the gaping mouth, and here it is as well. You'll see this in as a repeating cloud pattern in your local sky everywhere. These patterns apply earth-wide. I'm confident in that sense because remember, taking away the ball Earth explanation for when we look up to the sky and we're looking at the infinite universe, well then we all agree there's a container.
Right, let it be known right now. I do not subscribe to this belief of Pete's. This is Pete's own theory. If you want to listen to more of this, I suggest you head on over to Pete Shea's channel where he'll tell you all about it. But me personally, yeah, that's just not for me. I'm sorry.
Equator, right? So I can see well beyond that, and I can see the same the other side, Polaris, right? We're a flat plane with the universe above. Whatever the universe is, I say it's all a pattern being remember Mark Sargent talked about a planetarium. Correct. Think about it in terms of a planetarium, but a collapsed center. A collapsed center. Remember, the tree has been cut. We're in a divided state. So all of these expressions are consistent and provable and known as well. So the bear, laugh away, Aunt Ranty. Now that you see the bear, now that you see this, I go further. And this is me going 2 or 3 years ago, right? I go further. I can bring this back to the moon. I can connect everything, right? Aristarchus is the source of everything. So everything, therefore, will stem from that or be a sort of an expression of it. But yeah, the gaping mouth and the bear. Sorry, Paige, that's my last word. The bear as well. Look for it in your local.
I just wanted to ask you, did you know that the Aboriginal Australians have stories about a time before the moon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's other cultures that have names like the people from before the moon.
Right. And this ties into what Arvin was saying when I say Earth is 422 years old this year in its current broken form. The Aborigines of Australia talk about giant, massive trees reaching up to the sky.
Shout out to Natty LCC who says, anyone here at all ever seen that cloud before? That bear cloud before? Let's nip this in the bud for Pete. So, if you've seen this bear cloud before, press 1. If you haven't seen the bear cloud before, press 2, 3, 4, 5, anything other than 1. Only 1 is for the bear cloud. This is for Pete's own research because he says everybody should have seen this before. So I may have just missed it, but if there's people out there that have seen it, smash the 1.
And we can see how all of it becomes interconnected in, I guess, a wondrous sense compared to the deterministic sort of evolutionary. But again, I don't want to diminish that, because the Big Bang tells you the truth, right? The Big Bang is the big fuck. When the mother and the father, the torn apart, separate aspects, came together and produced the wonderful miracle, which is a child. Now, none of us here will deny that the child is the most wondrous miracle of with nature in inverted commas. But when do we stop becoming children? When do we stop? When do we leave that behind? No. The same story applies to all of us. So we are of a divided nature.
Well, I think that's pretty conclusive. I'd say probably 80% or so of people were saying no, that they've never seen this, except for Brandon Cook and My View 1875. They're the two people. Yeah, My View 1875 and Brandon Cook are the two people that say, oh, and Ian Adams just now. Oh, just now. Very funny. But yeah, these two have seen it before. Please elaborate. Please tell us all about it in the chat right now, because we would love to hear your story about seeing this exact same cloud. Cheers.
Different story. I think we're actually in Genesis 1. We ventured into Genesis 2, and everything else then is there to be interpreted in relation to our reality. You know, it's all that wondrous, and I think we are fucking more than capable of working this out. Like children must become, right? Are children simple, or are children pure? We sort of we taint our children, I think, because everything they go through, we send them there, right?
Yeah, I think the fact they want us to think everything is material, everything's quantifiable, everything is something solid, like your house is built out of solid things, when it's not.
Amanda Young, $3 super chat. I have a red teddy on my bed. Laughing my ass off. But it wasn't white though. Pete's was white. I mean, come on, Amanda, you're failing there, mate. Pete had a white bear. You got to see a white bear.
Right. Well, the knower is the thought. Right, the thought. Without the thought, why in the beginning wasn't there the thought as opposed to the word? Because the word is separate from the thought. The word requires something specific, a medium.
See, I think the word creates that. The word allows that thought to become manifest. That's why the ether is important to me, because you need something there for your intent, your thought, to be able to reach out and actually, affect the reality around you.
Well, Paige, this is the power of the word is. When they talk about take the sword from the stone, it's the S word from the S tone, right? Now, I know it's not convoluted at all. When we decide what is, right, because of the nature of our being, we give it a reality. So for years, all of us decided that the spinning ball Earth, the heliocentric model, originated by Aristarchus of Samos, by the way, and the greater Big Bang model was or is, right? This is reality. So in other words, we have created that
reality.
Truth. Yeah,
that truth. Yes.
And if we're wrong, that's why it's a sharp sword. That's why Jesus returns with a double-edged sword in his mouth from Revelations, right?
Yep. And in his mouth too, not in his hand.
Exactly. A word, the S word. Now, what is the S word? Well, what does the S represent? The S is the word of the letter of division, and if you combine an S and a backwards S, you get an 8. If you combine a tree and a backwards tree, you get an 8 as well. And 8 is a twisted 0. Remember, we're told from the Big Bang, the big fuck, right, that out of nothing, the 0, came everything, which is the twisted 0, or the 8, the infinity symbol, the lemniscate, via the singularity, via the 1. So it's the 1 and the 0. Now, if we think about the 1 and the 0, it's the circle and the diameter. The relationship between the circle, the circumference, and the diameter is 3.14 to 1. And that's a mathematical instruction. right? That's a multiplication instruction, which is, what do you get when you multiply 3 by 14, Paige?
28, 32. Did you say 3 by what?
14.
42.
8, 8, 12.
42, Brenda.
42.
Exactly. Well, 42. Yeah.
Isn't that
42
the
is given
number
as
of
the
the universe?
ultimate answer to life, the universe, and
Yeah.
everything. So out of
42's in everything.
right.
Just
So
like
out
8
of
is in
nothing,
everything.
out of
All
nothing.
the coding has 8. Like, oh my God, the coding around the this coronavirus and Kobe Bryant and all the things that have linked up with that. Holy crap, that just blew my mind.
Out of nothing comes everything, right? What is one? What are numbers? You know, it's all about the material. Again, if all there is the material, everything starts as 1. But if there's the immaterial, well, then there's a 0, there's an undefined thing, there's a no thing. So we are immaterial. How can we not? How could we be fooled for so long? But in our very essence, we have the immaterial affecting and controlling the material, which is our brain, our thought, THOTH. Now, you know what the TH is? Youth, birth, BIRTH. BIRT. So you're told you are TH. So what does TH represent? Well, that's the theta, the 1 and the 0. So you are the combination of the immaterial and the material. The immaterial being the 0, no end, no beginning. The material being the 1, you know, which emerged from the material. So imagine getting a 0 and just sort of twisting it up an infinite number of times. What would you get? You get a 1. Right, and that's what infinity is. It's just a series of 1s. So that's what. And listen, this is where it comes back to the story being read by all of us, right? Aristarchus of Samos is credited as being the originator of the heliocentric model, the heliocentric. When you're in hell, all you have is the material. The material. And well, what is the material? Arwen talked about it. Everything is frequency and vibration, right? And the thought is above all. TH, there's the TH again. O-T-H. Thought.
Well, thoughts, the frequency and vibration of fear and thoughts that are negative, that kind of stuff, they have a denser frequency and vibration. I think that's what hell is that, you know, when you become so low in your frequency, you literally turn into a rock. Right.
And what is within your body, what is low? Or regenerative areas, if you want to put it like that. See, regeneration, go forth and multiply. You're not actually going forth and multiplying, you're dividing. Everything is disintegrated from an integrated whole, as if this is what science does as well. It takes a disintegrated part and tries to come up with an explanation for it. But science is not genuine. If science was genuine, that would be a noble pursuit. But everything is corrupted, right? And I say necessarily so because all this shit is easy for us to work out. Relatively easy anyway. And we're only in our 50s, right? Whatever. No, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
You look like you're only 24. But you know what I mean? Very early days. Life has to be about something.
It was to see through. Like, I literally had something pop up on my YouTube feed one day that said something about flat Earth. I watched it, and I didn't even have the thought, you know, oh, this is stupid. The only thought I had was, oh, what do they know to make them think that? So I watched it, and I'm not joking, within a couple of hours, I was going, oh my God, there is something seriously wrong with the globe.
Right.
Like it was so blatantly obvious, and I'm
it's
just
too
like,
easy, isn't it, Paige?
It's
too easy.
It's like, this was just really easy. Why was it this easy?
It's too easy. where we're setting lead at every hand's turn, and this is where it comes back to the individuals. I'm not just saying anyone who hasn't heard me. Look, I might appear pompous or whatever, but I'm not really. I've just been saying the same thing sort of over and over again because I've realized lots of things over the years here. But yeah, all of this stuff is made absolutely too easy for us, right? Like Sherlock Holmes, we must become. So we understand that somebody is feeding us information. So where are we being led? Anything that's easy to figure out is not worthwhile figuring out. This is why I talk about the Bible literalists. Well, you don't even have to read that shit yourself. All you have to do is think back to here in Ireland anyway, when you were 3 or 4 and upwards, and that stuff is pushed down our throat. So the truth can't be that simple, right? So again, yeah, it all comes back to where we consider ourselves with an honest heart. I know there's plenty of actors in this state, and I'll put my hand in my heart. On camera here, am I? I'll put my hand on my heart and say that at all times, I try to be honest. I'm nothing, I'm not, what the fuck? I have no affiliations to anyone. I piss off pretty much everybody. But at the same time, I know where I'm at. And I would say to any honest inquirers out there, this is the ultimate purpose. It's for the individual to wake up. And the individual represents the collective. We're all sort of one. I mentioned Sirius. If you don't know the significance of Sirius and 9/11, Sirius the star and 9/11, for instance, that's my pathway, I guess. But the information is out there and it's been made available. Maybe you'll come by the same truth via a different pathway. I think that's how it works. When I think about the likes of Iron Man and F.E. Man, his name is Tony Stark. When I think about Game of Thrones and the sheer numbers of people who've been exposed to the series, and the chief character is named Arya Stark. I see how all of these things sort of connect. So it's not just you have to go down a certain pathway. Don't get me talking about Mark Sergeant Pepper and Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Mark Sergeant told us it's all a game of clues.
Just to let you know, guys, I'm going to round up in 5 minutes, so I'm going to get an early night tonight. I've had a few late nights, so...
no worries, Ranty. Yeah, I'll be a bit more organised tomorrow, and I'll have all the things that I want to show about the common law and the sovereign citizen and all that. So if anybody's interested in learning about, why, what the police think they are allowed to do and what they're actually allowed to do are two totally different things. And we need to start standing up for ourselves and saying, hang on a minute, just because you've got a badge and a gun doesn't mean you can treat me like this. So I think this is very important information. So hopefully I'll get my shit together and have it all up and running by tomorrow.
No worries. Anything you want to say, Pete?
Yeah, well, I said it from the start, right? Flat Earth is just the beginning. And I've always bundled it into 3 things. You got the legal name fraud, which I think Paige is going to talk about. You got legal name fraud, 9/11 media and victim, symbolic hoax. Everyone on Earth pretty much has been exposed to it. And then, of course, you got flat Earth. These are all things that are thrown and bundled in together. And I would just say to Paige, if you, and anyone else out there, if it's easy for you to sort of come, if someone has handed to you something on a plate, there's always a catch. There's always a deeper sort of resonance to everything. And, well, ultimately,
nothing good comes easy. And if it comes easy, then
well, exactly, and this is what the heliocentric system, for me, in essence, is about. Us looking into this, the pit of nothingness, and seeing that there is nothing beyond the material. And then it's only when you come back to the realization that, well, there's everything beyond the material, and we can appreciate it ourselves in our own brains, in our own dreams, in our own thoughts, and then we can appreciate it all the more. But those 3 things taken in tandem, well, then everything changes, and I believe everything's going to change.
Yeah, sure.
I will just express thanks to Ranty again for it's. I'm so unaccustomed to being uncensored in what I say, so I really appreciate it.
It's fantastic, isn't it, Pete? It's really, really good.
That's a green jumper as well.
I meant your name in blue. I've never seen you with a wrench. It's like normally you get shut up, not allowed to talk. But I know people roll their eyes and stuff at this, but I just want people to sit back and think that we all have our own experience. And oh, sorry, somebody's trying to call me. So you need to sometimes listen to people and realize that because they've grown up in a completely different place, had completely different experiences, they might have a different view on things. And, you know, you just need to be a little bit more open-minded. Doesn't mean you have to just immediately take on board everything everybody says, but at least hear them out. You know, it's not hard to hear someone out. So, yeah, that'll do it for me. I'll get off now. Thanks, Ranty. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, no
and
worries.
now we have John Quantum Eraser.
Ali B.
Right, see you later, Pete. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Ali B, have you got anything to say before we go?
Yeah. I left a couple of links in the chat, in the side chat here on the Skype call, Randy. If you click on the one that says phenomena of light or something like that, right? Yeah. And on the left-hand side, there's a list, and go down the list and click on mirages, and you've got. Well, you'll like it. You can look at the whole web page. It's very interesting. But
would that be mirages and green flashes?
That's the one.
Yeah.
No, no. Go down to the one that says phenomena. It's the last one I put.
Oh, atmospheric phenomena. Yeah.
That's it, and click on that, and then on the right-hand side there's a list, and just click on mirages, and it gives you it's a really good web page. But you know all that stuff anyway. But it just enforces it. Just gives you a bit of backing. This was a paper.
Let me say, Ali, the green flash is. I know what's going on, I think, but it's a fantastic flat Earth group. When we look at the black swan image, and we understand that we can see when we're at a certain acuteness of angle up to 10 miles and well beyond, you know, and that was with a specific type of camera along the water. Well, this is very significant. We can do away with all the interference, so the green flash plays into that. So I'll just give you a cryptic clue. But thanks again, Ranty. Cheers.
All right, Pete, before you go, the thing about, you were talking about Sirius, right? That was named after the Egyptian god Osiris, right? And it's called the dog star because that's usually how he was depicted, with the dog's head. So just a little bit of useless information, or useful. But
that's okay. That's
Osiris.
Okay. Ancient Egypt didn't exist, right? So what does it tell us about our own lives? So remember in the Truman Show that Truman's awakening started when a certain thing fell from the sky, which was the artificial star Sirius, and it was on day 9/11 as well. Right, so this is something. But when you break down the word, all stars are one star. Ali, remember, it's just not saying remember. Think about it, or at least consider it in terms of everything being a reflection of one thing. So Sirius itself is significant in terms of the letters chosen for the word.
Well, you did
the beginning of the word. So Sirius says S-I-R, I and U are S. So we are S and S divided. So when you combine the two sides, then you have an 8, right? And what does the 8? Human. Male from female, self from self. This is why the right brain controls the left side and vice versa, right? Because we're divided. Look at our back. Yeah. We're torn apart.
But the 8's also a symbol for infinity, though, as well. So.
Right. Because the infinity it comes from zero. It's twisted. Zero is what there is.
Yeah. Well, zero represents the quotation marks universe, and well, that's what they say anyway. That's what the ancients or that. But that
the ancients. What do you say?
And Anatoly Fomenko. Well, I tell you, he got me thinking. He reckons that Jesus was around in the 11th century. I don't buy into your 16th, but I certainly don't believe it actually goes back. He reckons there's about 1,000 years missing of the history that we've got, and it's a lot closer. You know, our history, the world, human kind is not as old. I'll go with you there, Pete. I think they've messed with the history.
Well, if you think about it, sure. If you think about it, though, Ali. Yeah. If you're going to go back to the 11th century, if you think about it, the connection I've made, Nico Haupt the first original low planar to 9/11, how significant 9/11 is in all of this. So his follow-on work of 1649-ish, everything is sort of interwoven into a greater story. So sure, lots of things become possible,
Anyway,
but
let's let Ranty.
is there a coherent sense to everything? And
let's let Ranty go. But I have to say, Peter, would I love to actually been discussing with this kind of subjects with you for the last 2 hours. But there you go. It was nice.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll bring you two in on the next time we do one of these shows. Yeah, sound good?
Yeah, and we'll talk about history, Pete. I'd like to delve into your thinking. I've got a few takes on it as well. I'd be quite interested in hearing your theory about the history, because I don't buy it's ancient. I don't buy it.
Anatoly Fomenko is friends with Garry Kasparov, the world champion chess player. Everything connects. It's all scripted. A chessboard is 8 times 8 squares, which is h times h, which is 64. But that's a different story. Thanks again, Ranty. Nice talking. It was a pleasant conversation tonight. I hope it was pleasant for everyone listening.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
No worries. Right, the hand. Anything you want to say before we go? I guess not.
Maybe not.
I guess not. Right, okay, well, with that, I'm doing not two presentations tomorrow. I'm doing 2 debates tomorrow. So I will be recording 2 debates throughout the day. So that'll be, I believe one's going down at just after 11 in the morning and one in the afternoon. I'll try and release them, maybe one tomorrow night, maybe one Saturday night, I don't know yet, I haven't decided, but I'm doing 2 tomorrow during the day. I'm also going to hopefully be doing some kind of show tomorrow evening, so a live stream. So again, I haven't decided on the format of that yet, but it's
hang on, Ranty. Before you go, you worn out from Jeranism? Did you feel the pressure beforehand, and did you feel that you were happy with what you had to present? I looked at one stage and there was 500 people listening. I busk inside in town. There's always just a few people coming and going. There's a pressure on you, and you always sort of evaluate your own performance. I think you probably performed very well, but how did you feel yourself? Do you feel drained in any sense?
I was more drained just getting everything ready. It's not the first time I've done a presentation for Jeren, so it was, it wasn't something that I wasn't used to. But yeah, I mean, it was just nice to actually get the presentation out in the order that I wanted to. I think most of it was just putting it all together in the right order. I didn't want to miss anything out and lead somebody down a path and then I have to go back to things all the time. So I think for the format worked well. I think the information's, obviously it's controversial, but from by all accounts, I was just looking at the likes to dislikes ratio. I think it's 320 likes and 17 dislikes. So I can't have performed too bad. So. How did you
think Rumpus did last night on your own hangout here? I thought he did dreadfully as normal, but how do you think he came across in general?
He speaks the narrative, and the thing is, what I feel is that if they're so used to being interrupted, that they don't have to prepare for when they're not interrupted. Right. So when he's not interrupted and he's allowed to just speak, essentially, then the truth starts to emerge and the frailties of their argument starts to come out. Right. Because what will happen is when they get into this argument, they're shut down, or somebody jumps in, or somebody interrupts them. But on this format, I don't allow that. I let them live by the sword and die by the sword. So essentially, that's what happens. And they always seem to end up going into a cul-de-sac of their own. They always end up going into a position that they don't like. And they reveal stuff that they perhaps shouldn't do. And tonight's presentation on Gerans, I was able to get 3 globe earthers all agreeing that this upward refraction in their model, which is basically light just travelling down, essentially on a flat homogeneous plane, would, by all accounts, send the light crashing into the ocean before it even reached the observer. So that would be bottom-up obstruction.
Right. It isn't even theoretically sound, right? Not to mind practically sound. Yeah. So the only thing I would say about Rumpus, if we're going to entertain people like that, there has to be a forfeit. A man has to be able to sort of put something behind his strong opinions and his returning sort of vocals. But with Rumpus, there's never a forfeit, right? There's never he'll just come back and repeat anything that he's done for years now, as I've known. So we got to sort of get beyond that, but understand that this is the best that science has to offer, and how easily we can defeat them. That's the great thing we can take away from this.
Well, what's going to happen from now is, over the next week, there'll be a lot of backtracking, there'll be a lot of doubling down, there'll be a lot of shaking the head from the Globers saying, no, Ranty's wrong, he's misrepresenting us. Not at all. No, I haven't misrepresented. I allowed presentations to be performed exactly how they wanted to do. The questions were very concise to these people. I was never, I never tried to sneak anything under the radar. I was always upfront with what I was asking. But now that all this has been formatted into a counter argument using refraction against them rather than for them, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of backtracking. There's going to be, this can never happen, there's never enough, there's not enough refraction to happen on that, the light would escape from these mediums, yes, and they would just zoom up and the light ray would end up going around, and it would always get to the observer on a flat plane. It would always get to the observer. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to go down. So be expecting that. But just remember that whilst this was going off in the background, whilst I was planning all this, whilst I was getting all the information together to put this presentation together, that was their position. They all admitted it. They all agreed with it. Now that the video's been out, it's been put on Jeranism, I expect a lot of backtracking. So I expect the heat to come and the denials to come. Just remember that at this point right now, this was their position. If it's changing, that's down to them. That's not down to me.
Right, and they don't call you Teflon Ranty for nothing, right? So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye.
What the hell does Teflon Ranty mean?
Well,
I've never heard that before.
Ranty, I just want to say before I do go and let you go or whatever, is I thought you done brilliant actually. I've been going on about this for ages. Let them talk, give a man a rope long enough, he'll hang himself, and you've done a great job letting him talk, and the questions that you were asking, and you were picking up on things that maybe someone would have missed. I was permanently sat there listening, going, "Oh, that was a great question. Oh, nice one." I was like sitting in the background going, "This is fantastic." Rumpus, you owned him, and Pete as well. Pete always owns him anyway, but you owned the Rumpus last night, and you made him out into a gibbering fool. And that's what he sounded like. It was a pleasure to see him getting taken down a bit. So, but anyway, well done. And I'm going to watch that presentation you gave on. Was it Globebusters?
No, it was on Jeranism. So
Jeranism. All right, I'm going to go and watch that now in my bed. So.
Awesome. It's a 2-hour show though. It's a 2-hour show.
That doesn't matter. I can watch 2 hours. I've watched 2-hour lectures, 4-hour lectures. I'm all right with 2 hours, mate. All right, buddy. You have a good one, and I'll say good night. Good night, Pete. All the best. And I'll speak to you next time.
Yeah. See you later, everybody. Right. I'll say goodbye here. Right hand, you're not there to say goodbye? No. Last chance. Nah, he's gone. Right, okay, so with that, let's see who we've got in. Let's see a few shout outs to people that are still in. Gleam says, I concur with Ali. You had Rumpus disprove the globe and prove that flat works. Thank you very much. And that coming from you, Gleam, that means a lot. It really does. Mind the Gods in, Cleary Rune, Game Tamer, Matrix Media. Nice to see you in. Brandon Toy, night, mate. Yeah, it is getting late, and I have been getting told off recently by the missus. She's not happy at me trying to creep into bed at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But needs must when the devil drives, so to speak. So, what have we got? We got the Mind of Gods in. Thank you very much, everybody. People that have given the super chats again. Thank you very much. If you aren't a subscriber to this channel, please click the subscribe and the like button if you liked what you heard tonight. As I say, 2 presentations are going to be recorded. 2 debates are going to be recorded tomorrow. There's going to be a live show. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff coming up. So stay tuned if you like this kind of stuff. If you're entertained, click the like. Click the what's the notification? That's the one. Click the bell, and I'll see you all in the next one.